seat at the table with some men with confidence.
And welcome to Men in Confidence Sharing, where we, the men of a certain age, share our thoughts, ideas, and opinions in confidence. And today we're joined by 1, 2, 3, 4. We'll have the full crew here. We have Sean, we have Terrence, and we have Ryan. So we're going to go one by one and say hello to everyone. Hello, Sean.
Hey, everybody. How y'all doing?
Hello, Rhino.
What's good, everybody?
And hello, Terrence.
Greetings and salutations, people.
Well. Today is an interesting day. After years of legal workings, abortion is now no longer a federal guaranteed right. It has now been turned over to the states, thanks to the Supreme Court. So that means that it's up to every individual state to decide what are the abortion rights of its citizens. And there are already states that have already put things in place to make it illegal or more difficult in those states. I'm looking at you, Arkansas. I know that you, I'm sorry, Alabama. I'm looking at you because they were ready. Like they were ready, like they had the water and the sugar, they just went on the Kool-Aid. Like they were ready to go. So I'm just gonna begin with a simple question. How do y'all feel about the ruling? Wide open.
Yeah, he just threw it where anybody can grab it. Go ahead, Ryan. I'm gonna let somebody else pick it up.
I think it's a problem. I mean, the idea that the government can come in and say and tell me what I can do to my body, just really, it's none of your business. Let me do me. You know, and it didn't seem so invasive as it does. And when it really hit me was just recently. It hit me again, actually. I saw this protester and she had up a sign saying, "All men should give vasectomies," and I was like, "Whoa, hold up now! you're not cutting down here. You know, I didn't agree for the first cutting down here, and I think he took too much. You know, like, come on, dude." No, but it seems super invasive, and I totally disagree with the idea of the government telling me what I can and cannot do with my body. That's literally between me and my doctor. And if my doctor disagrees with the procedure, then okay, thank you, doctor, I appreciate it. I'm gonna go find somebody else out there. Now, I know that opens the door. That's kind of a vague statement. I get that, but and understand something. I am against abortion. I am anti-abortion. No, you shouldn't do it. But I am for people's right to decide what to do with their body. That's your decision. That's between you and you. You figure it out. You get it done. You have to live with the consequences of your decisions. You know, it just is what it is. But just to keep it simple, I don't like the idea of the government, you know, just coming in blanket. No, you can't have that procedure. Says who? Who are you? You know, I just no. That's a huge no for me, dog.
I'm mad you stole my line. That's gonna be a no for me, dog. Shout out to Randy Jackson, American Idol. But I number one, I agree with this whole idea of it's my body. I do what I want to with it. That's absolutely crazy. And I feel like I shouldn't be saying it's my body. I do what I want to when this really isn't affecting me as a man in that regard. You know, I want to be completely sensitive to the topic and the idea that we are now telling women that no, you don't get to choose what you do with your body parts. I mean, are we going to get to the point where, but nah, ma'am, I'm sorry. you're just going to have to deal with those A's. You're not going to be allowed to go get those enhanced. No one seems to have a problem with that. Why are we picking and choosing? Why are we picking and choosing what you can and can't do? That's, oh wait, you don't want to be a woman no more, so you want to just start over and be a dude. That's still seemingly okay. We can't pick and choose, and this is a big one because I don't think people really factor in exactly how far-reaching this idea of abortion being illegal is going to go. I mean, what happens to those people who have been unwantingly impregnated, to say it nicely? You just gonna leave her in this lurch, in this bind of having to deal with this new life that was not planned for or wanted? And then you'll be upset with the fact that as a single mom who didn't want the child, that she's either going to be a possibly crappy mom and not properly care for this unwanted child, or the light bulb goes off, because I've heard that this happens sometimes, that people fall into motherhood and they find that inner thing to want to be good, and then she's got to struggle because she may be in a situation where if it was an unwanted pregnancy, chances are the person who got her pregnant isn't present, and now she's left to deal with rearing a kid on her own that she didn't plan to, and the stigma that comes with being on the system to take it. It's just, this is a mess. This is beyond bonkers. I don't get it at all. You got it, Sean. Wow.
Yeah, no, all right, I gotta take a deep breath and a woosah moment. I probably ain't gonna get a chance to say everything I want to say, and I'm trying to be concise and precise and still sound professional without going off. Okay, so one of the points that Terrence made, it's crazy that in a culture, in a world that we live in today, where we're trying to be so accepting of so many different things, this feels like a step backwards. Why would you then turn around and do this? We're doing so many other things that the focus is allow, and let's not offend anybody or whatever. So why would you take a step backwards? You know what I'm saying? And it's just like, I'm gonna say, Rhino was saying, like, when he first heard about it, I was the same way. It was like, it caught my ear, and it was like, they're voting on Roe v. versus Wade again. Why? The biggest problem I had was why. And it's still the biggest problem that I have. It's like, I didn't understand why we were going backwards into this. The women that I know, the women that I have come across, the stories that I've heard, the stories that I've read, those things that when it relates to abortion and having, children or having an abortion and things like that. But none of these women are clamoring and trying to get Roe v. Wade overturned to this level. You see what I'm saying? Like, I don't know who was calling for it. These folks in the government claim to work for us. We elected them to work for their constituency, right? What constituents were asking for this? Who was it? None. I don't think I could put a check mark. I don't think I could do a street poll, a regular poll, a common sense poll of women. If I went around and asked and said, hey, did you want them to revisit the abortion law the way it is now? You know what I'm saying? Let's go back and let's change it. Do you want them to change it? Don't you want them to change it to states can do it individually? And that way, if Montana wants to bar it, if Alabama wants to bar it, they can, right? Isn't that a better rule? Don't you want that? I got a feeling that the answer is zero. I don't know any females who wanted this. I don't know of any guys, of any persons, anybody who had it on their mind that was saying Roe v. Wade just has to be changed. Because you guys are right. All of the things that you guys are saying, And of course, one of the first things that comes to mind about unwanted pregnancies, whether it is for, because I also, first let me interject. I fall definitely very in the pro-life, pro-choice heavy, pro-life, type of thing. As the father of any child, if a woman were to ask me, I would be, definitely on a level where I'd say, well, it's your body. So first, pro-choice, because the after effects of the things that usually happen, it's not like these women go through this process and it's easy. Something is probably going to be adversely affecting them later. You see what I'm saying? When they go through and they get these abortions, there's an adverse effect. Even if they can have other children or whatever the case may be down the line, there's a mental adverse effect, and a decision has to be made about those type of things. So it's not just easy. We're asking for freedom, and it's just ever been easy. You know what I'm saying? But I don't believe in cutting it off either. If she were to then turn around and say, well, what do you want to do? I don't know what to do. What's your absolute choice? And I would say pro-life. It's always, every child that comes here, I believe, is being governed by a higher power than us. And we don't have the authority to cut off that decision-making process. If a baby gets to this earth happy and healthy, they deserve a chance at life, and I believe they can have a chance at life. You've got the boys' homes and things of that nature that we all know, where people are lined up waiting for a small child. You see what I'm saying? So anyway, I digress, and let me get back, and then I'll pass the mic over to Tom because I know he's waiting. But getting back, like I said, to the point, I don't understand these congressmen and stuff. We elected y'all, and nobody was yelling for this, so I don't understand it. The bad part about when I get into a level and a mode when I don't understand something, I don't understand why y'all doing it, I'll start thinking of my own devices. When I start trying to scratch my head and go, well, why are they doing this then? What is it for? I'm probably going to come up with something that you don't want me to come up with, i.e. vis-a-vis y'all trying to misdirect us to not deal with something else. Let's bring up abortion again and stir this pot up so that we don't have to deal with gun control, because we don't know what to do about that. But anyway, I'm gonna get off.
Okay, so one of the things to keep in mind, if you consider yourself a liberal or a Democrat or left-leaning or any of those classifications, you need to be aware of what the opposing side or the opposite of you believes in. Number one, if you have been paying attention, abortion and abortion rights, especially as far as the federal level is concerned, has been a major concern of the Republican Party or the right-leaning side for, I want to say forever, but since it's been legal. Like, since that decision, they've been determined to overturn. I mean, that and Obamacare have been like enemies number one. That, Obamacare, and Hillary Clinton, like those have been enemies 1, 2, and 3. And speaking of Hillary, this is a big topic. And let's rewind the clock a little bit. Back in 2016, there was a certain presidential race that was being run against Trump on one side, Hillary Clinton on the other. And it reminds me of something that Sean said when Sean said that, you don't know anybody that wants, abortion repealed, right? But it's like thinking back then, like, you didn't know anyone that said that they wanted to vote for Trump either. Right? But somehow, some way,
this is true. You ain't never lied.
Somehow, some way, come out that ballot box, he had a whole lot of votes. But I think people take lightly the rights that are given to them, namely the right to vote, because voting is a preventative measure. Sometimes it's not always an action, sometimes it's a prevention. you keep people out of office that's going to do you damage. Even if you, and I've heard the argument as far as lesser of two evils. I don't like either candidate, blah, 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 blah. And to be honest, a lot of people sat out that election, right? A lot of people sat out the election when it was Trump versus Hillary. And Trump won. But along with winning the president, he won the opportunity to appoint 3 Supreme Court justices aligned with him. Like, that hasn't happened before in, I don't think forever, but he has 3 Supreme Court justices that feel the way that he does. So so you know that you just added one third of the Supreme Court is now definitely right wing. In addition to anybody on there that may have been right way before Clarence Thomas, So it's like they're going to win any major decision going on from now until all of those or most of those justices are gone. Like the Supreme Court is now a conservative right-leaning court. This is just the reality of it. And it may take, I'm trying not to be disappointed. It may take a lifetime for that to change. Okay, that's the gloomy side. Okay, positive side is you still have the right to vote. You still have the ability to vote for the people in your state that have control over this. If you don't believe in abortion, and if you believe that everyone should have the right to choose, then your job from today going forward is to learn everything you can about who you have in office, who makes those decisions, and you can either write to them, talk to them, inform them of how your people feel, or vote them out if you know that they're not going to listen to you. And it all comes back to the power of the vote. It all comes back to the power of the vote. Okay, so I could go on forever, but so let's talk about this. Okay, so we see that it's been a major play, right? That they've been trying to do this forever, and they've been really intense on it. And it's funny because how quickly they were able to enact certain abortion laws now makes me think, okay, so y'all can do that fast, so y'all should be able to do every other law fast too. But that's a whole nother topic.
I mean,
You pick and choose what you want to.
been said.
My question is this. Like, we know what happened. Do you have an idea of why? What do you think is the reason why this is such a big deal to conservatives or to the right?
On this topic of
On abortion.
distraction. It's a distraction.
You think so? Okay.
It's meant
Go
to
for it.
kind of take your mind off of other ills. If we're talking about abortion, people are going to be so focused on that whole, gun control thing has kind of fallen to the wayside. The issue regarding, how Black and brown people are policed in this country has completely fallen off the map. We're not talking about rising costs and pay staying exactly the same. All of those other issues that are pertinent to people have completely dissipated in the background because now we're all focused on abortion rights. And I'm not trying to downplay this like it's not important, but I kind of lean to where Sean was at with that whole who asked for this, who wanted this, why is this a topic of conversation right now when there are lots of other largely more important things to be discussing. just my that's my thought on it. That's it. I feel like for a change, that was an easy one, Blunt. No.
My biggest and only concern is the precedent that it sets. Like, what's going to happen next? You know, what are they going to come in and tell us we can or cannot do next? You know, it's if I think you're incapable of hurting me and then you hurt me, that changes my total perception of you. You know, so now I know you're somebody to be avoided. Or if things go down, I got to take you out first. So my concern is the precedence that it sets. You know, that's a very astute observation, Sean. Who asked for this? And they've done this before. You know, dare I say it? But they
go get that tinfoil hat.
Right? Yeah, I'm not even gonna put it on.
Trying to leave it in the closet.
I'm not even gonna put it on. But it's like, what are you doing? Do you know the door that this kicks open? It's like, I need to get to the elixir on the inside, but there's also a dragon in this in this room. You know, it's like, where do we go from here? All right, and I'll just go ahead and kick it on this, Sean.
No, I mean, and you guys are both like absolutely right, and I'm absolutely right with you. Like I don't know, you know. Apparently, like I was saying before, I didn't have an answer to why. You know what I mean? That was the question that was floating around in my head from that standpoint. And like I said, then it'll lead you. You know, you start thinking. You know, among other things, like Terrence said, you start thinking distraction. You start thinking, you know, like and Tony has said, you know, which reminded me that, yeah, they have been after this issue. They seem to keep wanting to go and pick it up. And, you know, I'm going to stay away from saying whether it was, you know, because the facts are there and Tony stated the facts, whether it was Republican or Democrat. But to me, either way, a decision was made long ago. And yet and still, when you have a group of people, us as a group of us four, if a decision is made, we had a chance to vote in on the decision. When we tried to weigh in, we got a chance to talk about it with 4 other people or however many, whatever. And then the decision was made and we walk away and it's like, all right, we just can't accept the decision. If it's not for something, you know, that is beneficial, you know what I'm saying? That if we don't have a reason that we stand behind our beliefs from that standpoint or something like that, you know, religiously, or I guess the word I'm looking for is if it's not, you know, a tribute to society. There's a part of me, here's the point I'm making. You look like sore losers. You look like you're just so mad that you lost that every single time you can get a chance to pick this back up, you pick it back up. Tony said something else that I keep, you know, when it comes down to me and not understanding some theories in governments, you know, we had a president, like he said, Trump, he got a chance to pick, you know, Supreme Court justices, and then he's out because the president can only serve XYZ terms. But those Supreme Court justices that he picked, that's why Tony said it may not happen in our lifetime, because none of them got to go nowhere. None of their terms are limited. None of their, it's just like that. You know, to say the same thing for a lot of these councilmen and other people in the Senate and decision making. The president is termed. These guys are not. So as long as you keep voting them in there, as much as you vote them in there, as much as they can be there. And we do need to pay attention to the smaller, me and my wife talked about this 1,000 times. We got to pay attention to the smaller elections, electing our specific officials for our places and things like that. We'll go all in on the presidency and then wonder, how can everybody I talk to in this state has said they didn't like this particular candidate? So I pretty much knew that my state wasn't going to vote this way, but yet it still did, because in the previous election, you voted for a bunch of people who like the other guy, and their vote counts bigger in the presidency. You know what I mean? It's something that a lot of people don't quite understand. Electoral college is what I'm speaking to at the moment with that kind of thing. And, you know, they claim to, again, going back to what I was first originally saying, they claim to represent us. And it's like, you know, they only need to say they represent us just long enough to get in the seat. And then they can represent whatever they want to and say it's us. and it ain't necessarily got to be us. You know what I'm saying? You know, they just need to get elected and get in that seat, and then they can say, And then, you're right, and
who is the us they're referring to?
And this is a good point. That's always been a good point from that standpoint too, Terry. It's like, who is the us? Who is the us? But yeah, man, that's a loaded question, Tony. I don't know. You threw out the why. I'm telling you, I've been over here scratching my head, I think, and I'm with Rhino. I don't like the precedent that it sets, because it kind of makes it feel like that means no decision can ever really necessarily be considered final. That also means that no matter how many man hours and how much you pour over it in 2022 for the Supreme Court justices, even some of the ones that are sitting on there now, that was handpicked by Trump. But that means you can put in all your time and energy and make a law that'll stand for the 10 years that you sit on there, and or even within the 10 years that you sit on the seat, it's always challenged. It was never you're a Supreme Court justice now, but at the same time, somebody don't like your decision and plan, so it's never final. We can always go back and change whatever the heck we want to. So all the man hours and everything that you put into pouring over this and trying to make a decision about it don't mean nothing, because we can just always go back and double back and change it and decide that I lost last time and I want to win this time.
Okay, so I think there's a simple reason why they went after it so hard. I think that the Republicans of the right wing, I think they were trying to get a win for a certain section of their population. Like, there's part of the population is the religious folk, you know, the southern Christians, you know,
right?
And you know, they believe in pro-life. And so it was all about getting a win for them to basically say, yeah, you wanted this, we're going to get this for you. And this is me taking shots in an area that I probably don't need to be taking shots. And I'm taking shots because this is something the Democratic Party is terrible at. They're terrible at getting wins for their constituents. Like, they talk a lot, they march a lot, they say a lot, they, you know, do speeches and everything. But when it comes to actually getting a victory on paper, you know, they don't really do that very well. And speaking of putting something on paper, let's talk civics. Okay, so most of the right wing believes that the state should govern themselves, and the federal government should just be there basically as a babysitter, just to make sure that no conflict arises between one state and another. Like, they shouldn't really be involved very much. So if you want something to be a federally protected law, you shouldn't believe or count on the result of a case on the Supreme Court. It's like, if you want to be protected in the law, there's a way to do that. That's why we have a legislative department. They write laws. That's why we have Congress. Vote for somebody, coming back to voting, vote for somebody that's going to put into paper that abortion is a federal right. And they can do that. They can do that tomorrow. Will it happen tomorrow? Probably not, but they can do that tomorrow and put it for a vote. Now, the Supreme Court may try to go against it, say that it's not, you know, that it goes against the Constitution. But if they have enough support in Congress and approval of the president, there's no reason why that can't pass. And because it reminds me when Trump was in office and he was doing a bunch of stuff that you didn't know whether it was legal or illegal or not. You're like, is that illegal? And you just sit there and wonder, like, somebody should write this on paper, make a rule about this. That's kind of what this comes down to, is that we've been depending on past Supreme Court decisions to set precedent and make laws. We don't need to do that. We don't need to do that at all. So, okay. So in the civics lesson, okay. So what do y'all think is going to happen going forward, or what should we do going forward?
Okay, so the first thing that comes to my mind as far as what's going to happen going forward. Okay, so we live in a world where people are willing to put themselves in harm's way for, I don't know if y'all are familiar with the BBLs, the Brazilian butt lifts.
Thank you. I've always wondered what the BBL stood for.
But
you learn something new every day, but go ahead.
I didn't know either.
People are willing to put themselves in harm's way to go get this surgery done. You know, in some bargain basement, backwoods, I don't even want to say doctor's office, because it could potentially literally be in like somebody's basement for all we know. It's not the most safe thing in the world to do, but people are willing to do it to look good. If somebody is pregnant and they don't want to have this baby, they gonna find a way to get rid of this baby. And we gonna have somebody out here trying to remake Brenda's Got a Baby. And I throw that part out there, number one, because, you know, Tupac fan, RIP. But more importantly, this was an issue that we were talking about 30 years ago. Now you're repealing a law. What do you think's gonna happen? This is just like, are we really at that place in time where the inmates are running the asylum? Because that's kind of what it feels like. These decisions feel like the inmates are making the decisions for the asylum of America. I keep losing my breath and getting exasperated by it, because this is just really like bonkers to me. I can't wrap my head around this, because this is just so beyond rational and sane. I'm speechless. It's hard to put into words sometimes, just the amount of sheer or my new phrase, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday is going on here.
I like that.
It's really sad. It's really sad. I mean, I'm starting to think about all the women, and I actually hate the idea that abortion rights people always bring up. Well, what if a woman gets raped? All right, all these women aren't getting raped quite the way that you think. I mean, it happens, but I don't think it's happening as much as you are projecting it to be. But it does happen. And when it does happen, you're telling this woman that she got pregnant from after having been raped, that if she goes and aborts her baby, she's committing a federal crime and she needs to go to jail? Really? Are we going to put 12-year-olds in jail? Are we going to put 20-year-olds in jail? Simply because they aborted a baby that came as a result of a violation of their personal space and body? Are we really doing that? Like, come on. Like, I could go on, we can go on and on, but where does it end? Where does it come to a stopping point where someone says, look, we can't do this? Are we going to have to depend on some benevolent judge that says, look, she was raped. It is what it is. I'm not locking her up for that. Ma'am, you're free to go. Do we really want to depend on that? Especially if that judge has political aspirations and they know they have to relate to a large group of people, which is very hard for one person to please, like a whole state full of people with all their own personal ideas and thoughts. But where does that put them in terms of their decision making? All right, they have to ignore this person's experience. They have to ignore them, or they're basically going to say this person doesn't matter. I mean, come on, where does it end? But that's my thoughts on it.
You know, so I'm gonna capitalize on one point here before I talk about where I think what I think is going to happen, let's say in the future, because my real answer to that is I really don't know. But just to reiterate another point, piggyback off of what Rhino was saying, you know, the forcing of people to, you know what I mean, to now do these abortions, if some of these states that do step out and they're making that decision already, like you say, you know, Tony, from a religious standpoint, you know what I mean, that's a win. Let's everybody make them have the baby, everything like that. But just because you make the woman have the baby, it's just like anybody else. Just because we have a lot of rules and stuff like that. All of us have to work to make money, and we have to follow the rules of that job. But the one thing we don't have to do is be happy about it. Like, I'm constantly on my job about this kind of stuff. You can make all the rules you want to, and I got to come in here and follow. You say I got to be here at 5:45 in the morning. I had to be here at 5:45 in the morning to keep this particular job. What you can't make me do is smile at you when I pass you in the hallway as the person who made that doggone. What you can't make me do is do mounds of work. You know what I'm saying? So in that same respect, when I say it, it's like you can't then make that mom be a mom. You can't, you know, you're going to have people that didn't want to have the child and they didn't do anything else. They didn't put them up for adoption. They didn't, do any of that. But they now have an attitude like, we have enough of mothers like that anyway. You know what I'm saying? Not saying that the majority of mothers are like that, because they're not. But we have a problem with that already that is now just going to become a deeper problem. I didn't want to have this child in the first place. I didn't have an option to do anything else. So now they're mistreating it, you know, and now you have an innocent who didn't have a choice about being here that has to be mistreated. You see what I'm saying? Once they do get here because they have a mother who didn't want them. I don't understand why they would pass anything. Why any of, and like Tony says, it's in the state's hands, supposedly. It's in individual states' hands or whatever, is what the federal government did, was kind of take our hands off of it. We ain't gonna mess with it no more. We're gonna let the states handle it. But I still don't understand why any of the states would then run out front and say, okay, well then we're gonna abolish it here and now. We've been waiting for y'all to do that for a second. We couldn't wait to do that. We jumping in the pot with both feet. And I'm sure I'm a member of a state that's going to definitely do that. Because my state is all for anything that looks like, you know, if it seems like it could be a bad thing, my state just jumps out in front and just, you know, and that leads to my comment about the future. Because what I find myself is, as a Black male who's watching, and we talk about all these decisions and just the way the world is going, I can see why people think, man, we might be coming up on end times. I may not necessarily go as far as to say end times, but I know, especially when we're speaking on government, when we're speaking on things like this and we talk about it, I know, man, Tony mentioned W's. The government went to get W's they want to get a W on paper. We ain't had many W's. I ain't seen things that's been good for the community, good for human world rights type of, you know what I mean? We're still on here. We're able to have content, make podcasts like this. Not only us, a whole bunch of other people are making podcasts and whatnot of content, but it's negative. We're not getting on here with positive stuff. Hey, the government made a positive change today that's going to affect people positively in the future. I'm proud of them. I'm proud of America. I'm proud. We don't have enough W's, man. And that is the thing that saddens me as we go forward with the future. I can't keep looking at stuff and going, oh, here we go. Oh man, they did something stupid again. Oh, God dang it. What I see for the future is that, and that's saddening to me, man.
In my mind, I was just thinking, like, you're like, man, it don't seem like we're getting no wins. We ain't getting no W's. It was like, that's because you got a Boston Celtics jersey on. Like, if you had a Golden State Warriors jersey on, you wouldn't feel the same way about that.
Watch
you feel a little different. but okay, but being serious. Okay, so let's give a few facts. Okay, so number one, that when Roe v. Wade was overturned, it did not immediately make abortion illegal in the United States, but it's now a state's issue. And one of the things to keep in mind is that if your state happens to be a conservative state like ours, or 3/4 of ours, if your state happens to be a conservative state, if your state makes abortion illegal or makes it more difficult, your answer may just simply be to go to another state. And the clinics and the medical facilities are aware, and they've been preparing for it. So know that is an option. I know one of the fears is that there's going to be a whole bunch of back alley stuff going on. Hopefully people don't go that far. And please drive instead of doing something crazy. But where is this going? I don't know. I'm like Sean, I don't know where this is going, because if the Supreme Court can overturn a previous Supreme Court decision, then that means that any decision that they've made can be overturned. Plessy versus Ferguson, Brown versus Board of Education. Like,
there you go. That's gonna be next.
And I feel like all the major Supreme Court decisions are going to affect me. Like all the Supreme Court wins are going to affect me. So I'm a bit concerned. But all I can say is I'm disappointed. I'm kind of disappointed in our country because I feel like people are putting their religious beliefs ahead of the freedom that this country is about, and it's like they're not even looking at how it's affecting other people. Like, just because I believe this, you should too. Basically that. And I'm out of words. I'm thinking about closing. Anybody else got anything else to say?
I think Sean was on fire tonight.
Yeah,
Sean's on fire.
Yeah, he was Klay Thompson.
I was just fired up.
There's a whole other half to this conversation that we haven't addressed, and I don't really want to stir the pot because this could end up becoming like a 4-hour deal.
What are you talking about?
Okay, so you asked me what I'm talking about.
Yeah, because I think of a couple of things we didn't talk about too, but go ahead.
We're talking about abortion and how this impacts women's rights, and we all are in agreement that telling a woman what to do with her body is absolutely wrong.
Right.
Tony, you and I talked about this a little bit beforehand with regards to how, this is a female reproductive rights issue.
Mm-hmm.
But in order to conceive a child, there are two parties.
Correct.
Has anyone ever really tackled the discussion on male reproductive rights? Because realistically speaking, and I know this is going to sound counterproductive to everything that we talked about, but just hear me out. Prior to this happening, a man's rights in the situation where a woman gets pregnant were you're going to be financially responsible. That's like no question, whether it's willingly or by court. And your second right was, now you did have the option to be physically present or not. And that's about the extent of male rights in this regard.
Correct.
This decision now kind of puts women in a similar situation where if you can't legally get an abortion, well, you're now going to be financially responsible for this child. You can choose to be present or not.
Didn't look at it.
It's a very tricky dynamic when you put it in those terms. And again, like I don't want to be counterproductive to what was a really good conversation, but at the same time, it's a conversation that should be had.
So we might make that a part 2.
Yeah.
What's so funny is, and this goes back like a couple of months. A certain comedian named Chris Rock once told a joke talking about, like, there are 2 responses to if you get your girl pregnant. Like, I'm so happy, this is the greatest thing in my life. You know, I love you, blah, 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 blah. Like, that's response number 1. The other response is, so what you gonna do?
What you gonna do?
Yep, what you gonna do?
Yes, sir.
Because you ain't got no input.
Yeah.
You don't get to make the decision. I said something like that a little bit earlier when we were talking, if you remember, right? I said, I turn to her and I say, it's your body. What do you want to do?
Exactly.
If you ask me my opinion, I get to weigh it.
And that's what made me think of it, but we didn't quite pivot back around to that. So
no, you good.
But just for the record, we here in the Men of Confidence, we do support the right of choice.
Absolutely.
Even if we individually do believe in life, we do support legally the right of choice.
Right.
But we will stick a pin in male reproductive rights. We will hit that. That may be next week. But on that note, I'm gonna call this an episode and pass it to Terrence for the close.
Okay. So again, this was a very charged conversation with lots of aspects and layers to this thing that we're peeling back slowly. And if there's anything that you guys listening thought that we didn't touch on or didn't talk about enough, please feel free to drop a comment. You know, we want to engage and interact and try and be open and receptive to as many different perspectives as possible, because that's how you find actionable answers, in my opinion. And we always like to hear and interact with you guys, because there's some good stuff floating around out there amongst the internets, you know, as some people call it, Beyonce's internets. But anyway, thank y'all for listening. Like, share, subscribe. God bless you. Good night. Deuce.
Peace out, everybody. Check us out on our Twitter account.